The galaxy of Warhammer 40,000 is one of unending strife, an eternal theater of war where every race vies for survival, dominance, or outright annihilation of its rivals. In this grim-dark setting, alliances are rare, fragile, and almost always temporary, shattered by the overwhelming forces of betrayal, ideology, or sheer necessity. Yet one concept continues to ignite the imagination of scholars, strategists, and the desperate alike: the possibility of a union among Xenos factions. Could there ever be a united front of alien races, bound together not by coercion or fleeting convenience, but by shared goals, values, and survival? The Imperium of Man, the ancient and sprawling entity that dominates much of the known galaxy, thrives on the vilification of the Xenos. To humanity, the alien is not merely an enemy, but an existential threat to be purged. Yet, Xenos species themselves are far from monolithic. They encompass a dizzying array of cultures, philosophies, and objectives. The enigmatic Eldari, the swarm-like Tyranids, the war-hungry orcs, and countless others occupy the stars, each with its own complex web of relationships and histories. The notion of a Xenos coalition is a paradox, almost absurd when one considers the fundamental differences in biology, technology, and ambition that separate these species. And yet, history whispers of moments when such a concept seemed tantalizingly within reach. This discussion is not born of idle curiosity, but of the relentless pressures that define life in the 41st millennium. With the galaxy teetering on the brink of destruction, ravaged by warp storms, chaotic incursions, and the inexorable advance of ancient evils, the question arises: could the Xenos set aside their enmity to face greater existential threats? And if they did, who among them would lead such a coalition? Would it be an elder race with millennia of wisdom, a cunning opportunist with a vision of domination, or an unexpected force driven by necessity? This video embarks on a journey to explore the tantalizing what if of a united Xenos alliance. Together, we will delve into the galaxy's most prominent factions, the intricate web of circumstances that might lead to such a union, and the profound consequences of its realization. It is a tale of possibility, however remote, that challenges the very fabric of the Warhammer 40k universe. In a galaxy where mistrust is universal and conflict eternal, imagining such an alliance requires setting aside the grim reality of the setting to explore the motivations, philosophies, and unique strengths that could bring such disparate entities together. Before we unravel the key players and their potential roles, we must first understand the broader context. A galaxy defined by chaos and opportunity, where the faintest glimmer of unity could either save the stars or plunge them into an entirely new kind of darkness. Let us begin. The vast tapestry of Xenos factions across the galaxy offers a diverse array of contenders, each uniquely equipped with qualities and ambitions that could position them as leaders of a potential union. While the concept of a united Xenos front is inherently speculative, understanding the key participants involved reveals the potential dynamics of such an unprecedented alliance. The Eldari, an ancient and once mighty civilization, are a natural consideration for leadership in a Xenos Union. Their species is defined by an unparalleled mastery of the warp, profound wisdom accumulated over millennia, and a deep understanding of the galaxy's most intricate mechanisms. Despite their fractured state, split among the craft world Eldari, the hedonistic Drukhari, and the mysterious Harlequins, they share a common cultural lineage that connects them across time and space. Their influence, tactical acumen, and spiritual focus could make them a guiding force for any alliance seeking survival in a hostile galaxy. The Tau Empire presents a contrasting vision of leadership, one founded on the ideals of unity and mutual cooperation. The Tau philosophy of the greater good advocates for the inclusion of diverse species under a single harmonious banner. Their technologically advanced society has already succeeded in integrating other alien races, such as the Kroot and Vespid, into their empire. This existing framework for interspecies cooperation places the Tau in a unique position to offer a blueprint for a Xenos Union, though their rapid rise and relatively short history could be seen as both a strength and a weakness. The Orcs, driven by an insatiable love for conflict and destruction, might seem an unlikely candidate for leadership. However, their unparalleled numbers, brute strength, and surprising adaptability make them an undeniable force in any collective effort. While their chaotic nature and deep-rooted animosities toward other factions present significant challenges, their instinctive ability to unify under the leadership of a particularly charismatic or powerful war boss has been demonstrated countless times throughout history. Should an Orc leader rise capable of tempering their innate aggression into a focused purpose, they could bring unparalleled power to a Xenos coalition. The Tyranids, a biological force of nature, may not seem suited for traditional leadership due to their hive mind structure and relentless hunger. However, their unmatched capacity for adaptation and evolution could make them an indispensable asset to a union of Xenos factions. While they lack individuality, the presence of a synaptic leader with a broader strategic vision could redefine their role in such an alliance, positioning them as a formidable enforcer or vanguard force. The Necrons, with their immortal bodies and ancient technological mastery, are another key player in the equation. As a race that predates most other Xenos civilizations, the Necrons possess a depth of knowledge and power unmatched by any other faction. While their disdain for other species and their fragmented dynasties often lead to isolation, certain Necron leaders, such as overlords and pharaohs, have shown the ability to act with surprising pragmatism. If their long-term objectives align with the goals of a Xenos Union, the Necrons could provide unmatched stability and technological prowess. The Hrud, a mysterious and highly adaptable race, are less prominent in galactic history but could offer unique contributions to such a coalition. Their expertise in entropy-based weaponry and their natural ability to influence time and decay make them a wild card. While they lack the numbers or technological sophistication of more dominant factions, their unique capabilities could fill strategic gaps within a Xenos alliance. The Kroot, often overlooked due to their integration into the Tau Empire, retain a degree of autonomy and adaptability that could make them vital contributors. Known for their evolutionary potential and ability to assimilate genetic traits from their enemies, the Kroot possess a level of flexibility that few other species can match. Their mercenary nature and experience in working alongside diverse factions position them as valuable intermediaries in a Xenos coalition. Lastly, the enigmatic species that dwell within the warp or exist outside known galactic territories, such as the Fraal or other minor Xenos factions, could play smaller but significant roles. Their obscure knowledge, specialized capabilities, and lack of established loyalties might allow them to bridge gaps between larger factions or provide unexpected advantages. In this vast galaxy, each Xenos faction brings something unique to the table, whether it is raw strength, advanced technology, spiritual insight, or adaptability. The potential for leadership among these groups will depend not only on their inherent strengths, but also on their ability to cooperate and align their disparate goals in the face of a galaxy that offers little room for unity. The formation of a Xenos Union is not an event that arises spontaneously. It is the culmination of escalating pressures, shifting dynamics, and unprecedented circumstances within the galaxy. The seeds of this union are planted in the ever-growing threats that loom over all sentient species, Xenos or otherwise. As the galaxy becomes increasingly hostile due to the intensification of warp storms, the rise of chaos incursions, and the relentless expansion of the Imperium's military might, the survival of individual factions becomes increasingly precarious. The tipping point for the creation of a Xenos Union emerges from the realization among certain factions that their continued isolation leaves them vulnerable to annihilation. This awareness stems from a series of catastrophic events, such as the devastation wrought by Tyranid hive fleets, the unchecked brutality of Orc Was, and the sweeping influence of the Great Rift. The sheer magnitude of these galactic upheavals forces even the most insular and distrustful races to consider cooperation as a means of survival. The initial spark for this union comes from the Tau Empire. Their philosophy of the greater good, while often met with skepticism or outright rejection by other factions, provides a framework for interspecies cooperation. The Tau recognize that their expansionist ambitions cannot withstand the combined pressures of multiple enemies. Seeking to safeguard their holdings and extend their influence, they reach out to other Xenos factions with a vision of mutual survival. Their success in integrating races like the Kroot and Vespid into their empire becomes a proof of concept, demonstrating that collaboration can yield tangible benefits. However, the Tau are not the sole initiators of this union. Parallel to their efforts, certain Eldari factions, specifically those aligned with the Craft Worlds and Harlequins, begin to see the necessity of forging alliances beyond their own kind. Their ancient prophecies warn of a galaxy teetering on the edge of collapse, and the rise of chaos threatens not only their species, but the fabric of reality itself. While historically disdainful of other races, these Eldari factions recognize that their survival may depend on uniting disparate forces against shared existential threats. The Necrons, too, play a role, though their motivations differ. Certain dynasties, driven by pragmatic overlords, see the value in cooperation, even if only temporarily. The Necrons, with their vast technological resources and long-term perspective, approach the concept of a Xenos Union as a calculated risk. Their participation is spurred by the realization that chaos and warp incursions pose a threat even to their ancient tomb worlds. While their disdain for organic life remains unchanged, they recognize that a united front could serve their immediate interests. In this volatile mix, lesser-known factions also contribute to the push for unity. The Kroot, with their mercenary instincts and history of working alongside various species, act as intermediaries and negotiators. Their ability to navigate the complex relationships between factions helps bridge gaps and ease tensions. Meanwhile, fringe Xenos species like the Fraal, who operate on the galaxy's edges, see the opportunity to gain protection and resources by aligning themselves with larger players. The final impetus for the Union comes in the form of a massive, unprecedented event that threatens all Xenos alike. Whether it is the arrival of a Tyranid fleet on an unimaginable scale, a warp-based anomaly disrupting entire star systems, or an aggressive expansion by the Imperium into previously untouched territories, this singular crisis pushes even the most reluctant factions toward cooperation. It becomes clear that survival demands collective action. The process of forming the Xenos Union is fraught with challenges. Mistrust runs deep, and the inherent differences between factions create significant obstacles. Yet, the shared understanding that their extinction is inevitable if they remain divided proves to be a unifying force. In the end, the creation of this alliance is less about ideological alignment and more about necessity. It is not born from idealism, but from the grim reality of a galaxy that offers no mercy to those who stand alone. The process of forming a Xenos Union, particularly determining its leader, unfolds as a series of complex, high-stakes events marked by intense negotiation, conflict, and uneasy compromises. Once the necessity of cooperation is accepted, the factions involved must confront the question of who will guide this fragile coalition. This process reveals the deep-seated mistrust, differing priorities, and clashing philosophies that define each species. The first phase begins with a summit, held on neutral ground to reduce tensions. Representatives from key factions, such as the Tau, Eldari, Necrons, and Orcs, arrive with their own visions of how the Union should function. Each faction nominates a representative, viewing leadership as a means to secure their own survival and, in some cases, dominance over others. The Tau propose their ethereal caste as natural leaders, citing their established model of interspecies cooperation. The Eldari put forth a member of their Seer Council, emphasizing their ancient wisdom and knowledge of galactic threats. The Necrons dispatch an overlord, who asserts their race's technological superiority and long-standing claim to galactic dominance. Even the Orcs, though less organized, rally behind a war boss, whose sheer charisma and brute force command respect. Tensions escalate immediately. The Eldari dismiss the Tau's philosophy as naive and untested, while the Necrons view both as inferior due to their ephemeral lifespans. The Orcs, uninterested in philosophical debates, use the summit as an opportunity to assert their strength, leading to skirmishes that must be quickly contained. Smaller factions like the Kroot and Vespid attempt to mediate, but their limited influence only partially calms the volatile atmosphere. As the summit progresses, it becomes clear that no single faction can claim leadership without significant opposition. The Tau's insistence on their vision of the greater good alienates those who see it as a thinly veiled attempt at domination. The Eldari's enigmatic and often condescending approach fosters resentment among more straightforward species like the Orcs and the Kroot. The Necrons' cold pragmatism and disdain for organic life create a barrier to trust, while the Orcs' chaotic tendencies make them an unpredictable candidate for leadership. Recognizing the impasse, a secondary phase begins, focused on coalition building. Factions start forming alliances within the summit, seeking to strengthen their position. The Tau and the Kroot align closely, leveraging their existing relationship to present a united front. Some craft-world Eldari engage in secret discussions with the Harlequins, hoping to secure their influence as cultural mediators. Meanwhile, the Necrons seek to exploit the divisions among the Organics, proposing a council of leaders to limit any single faction's power. The conflicts intensify when the Orcs, dissatisfied with the slow pace of negotiations, launch a sudden and brutal raid during the proceedings. This act of violence nearly derails the entire process, forcing the other factions to band together temporarily to contain the threat. Ironically, this unintentional demonstration of unity against a common foe strengthens the argument for collaboration, though it also highlights the challenges of maintaining order within the coalition. A breakthrough occurs when a proposal for rotating leadership is introduced by a neutral party, possibly a smaller faction like the Fra'al or an independent Xenos group. This system suggests that each faction will have a turn at guiding the Union, ensuring no single race can dominate indefinitely. While far from ideal, the proposal gains traction as a compromise that allows the coalition to move forward without fully resolving the issue of trust. The final stage of the process sees the establishment of a provisional council, with representatives from each major faction tasked with coordinating the Union's efforts. This council serves as both a decision-making body and a safeguard against the excesses of any single leader. Though the tensions remain, the factions agree to this structure, recognizing that their survival depends on some form of collective governance. The process of choosing leadership for the Xenos Union is not one of harmony or mutual understanding, but a reluctant and often contentious negotiation. Each step reveals the fragility of the coalition and the challenges of uniting such disparate forces. Despite the resolution, the scars of these early conflicts remain, foreshadowing the difficulties that lie ahead. The Union is formed, but its foundation is as unstable as the galaxy it seeks to navigate. The turning point in the formation of the Xenos Union arrives when the question of leadership, long the cause of friction and mistrust, is finally resolved. After weeks of tense negotiations, broken truces, and fleeting alliances, a critical decision emerges, driven by the realization that the survival of all involved requires a singular figure capable of guiding the coalition through its most perilous moments. This decision is not made easily or willingly, but comes as a consequence of an extraordinary combination of necessity, pragmatism, and compromise. The leader chosen to helm the Xenos Union is not from among the larger factions like the Tau, Eldari, or Necrons, whose deep-seated rivalries and ambitions have repeatedly destabilized the discussions. Instead, the mantle of leadership falls upon a figure from a smaller, less dominant faction, a Kroot Shaper. This decision shocks many within the summit, as the Kroot have historically been viewed as auxiliaries, not leaders. However, the rationale behind this choice is both strategic and deeply symbolic. The Shaper, representing a species known for its adaptability, diplomatic flexibility, and ability to coexist within diverse ecosystems, becomes the unifying figure the Union desperately needs. Unlike the representatives of larger factions, who are often perceived as seeking leadership for their own agendas, the Kroot Shaper is seen as neutral, someone without imperialistic ambitions or an overbearing legacy. This neutrality is critical in earning the trust of factions that otherwise remain deeply suspicious of one another. Moreover, the Kroot's unique evolutionary capabilities and history as mercenaries working alongside various species lend them a perspective unmatched by any other faction. Their ability to assimilate traits from other species is not merely biological but cultural, allowing them to understand and navigate the complexities of interspecies dynamics. This adaptability is precisely what the fledgling Union needs in a leader who can mediate disputes, balance competing interests, and foster cooperation. The decision to appoint the Kroot Shaper is cemented during a pivotal moment in the summit when chaos threatens to unravel the entire process. An escalating conflict between the Necrons and the Aldari, sparked by centuries-old grievances, reaches a boiling point. Just as it seems the summit will dissolve into violence, the Shaper steps forward with a proposal that diffuses the tension. Offering a solution that respects the dignity and priorities of both parties while emphasizing the broader existential threat they all face, the Shaper demonstrates a capacity for leadership that transcends factional lines. This act not only averts disaster, but also showcases the kind of pragmatic, unifying vision the coalition desperately needs. The decision is not without opposition. The Orcs dismiss the Shaper as weak, while the Necrons view the choice as beneath their perceived superiority. Even the Tau, who initially positioned themselves as the natural leaders of the Union, express skepticism. However, the support for the Shaper from smaller factions and certain pragmatic leaders among the larger groups tips the balance. Recognizing that no other candidate has the widespread appeal necessary to hold the Union together, even reluctant factions eventually concede. The appointment of the Kroot Shaper as leader marks a dramatic and unprecedented shift in galactic dynamics. It symbolizes a break from traditional power structures and a move toward a more flexible, collaborative approach to leadership. The Shaper's neutrality and capacity to mediate disputes provide the Union with a foundation that, while fragile, holds the potential for stability. This turning point is not just about the selection of a leader, but also a collective decision to prioritize survival over supremacy. The factions acknowledge that their individual ambitions must be set aside, at least temporarily, to confront the greater threats that loom over them all. The Shaper becomes the embodiment of this fragile unity, a figure chosen not for their strength or dominance, but for their ability to adapt, mediate, and lead in a galaxy defined by chaos and conflict. In the end, this decision reflects the harsh realities of the galaxy and the desperate need for a new approach. Whether the Shaper's leadership will endure the trials to come remains uncertain, but for now, their role as the head of the Xenos Union marks a critical step forward in a galaxy where unity is both a rarity and a necessity. The appointment of a Kroot Shaper as the leader of the Xenos Union creates a ripple effect that extends far beyond the factions directly involved. For the first time in galactic history, a coalition of alien species moves with a semblance of unity, challenging the status quo maintained by millennia of division and mistrust. The immediate impact is both profound and multifaceted, altering the balance of power across the galaxy and forcing every major faction, including the Imperium of Man and the Forces of Chaos, to reassess their strategies. The most immediate consequence for the Xenos factions is a cautious but noticeable improvement in their ability to coordinate efforts. With the Shaper at the helm, disputes between factions are addressed swiftly, preventing the infighting that has historically weakened their individual endeavors. For instance, logistic networks are used to support Eldari forces during key engagements, while Necron technology bolsters the defenses of less advanced allies. These shared resources and strategies allow the Union to act with a degree of efficiency that few could have imagined. Although tensions persist, the realization that cooperation yields tangible benefits keeps the coalition intact, at least for the time being. This newfound coordination leads to significant military successes, particularly against shared threats. Orc warbands, often disorganized and fragmented, are redirected and concentrated under the Union's banner, their destructive potential aimed at Tyranid incursions or Chaos war hosts. Eldari seers use their foresight to predict enemy movements, guiding combined fleets to intercept hostile forces with devastating precision. The Kroot, once seen primarily as scavengers and mercenaries, evolve into skilled intermediaries, facilitating alliances and ensuring that communication between factions remains functional. These successes do not go unnoticed. The Imperium, long accustomed to fighting fragmented Xenos forces, is forced to confront a reality in which its enemies are no longer as divided as before. Early skirmishes with the unified Xenos forces end disastrously for Imperial fleets unprepared for the combined might of their adversaries. This prompts a significant shift in the Imperium's focus, as resources are redirected to counter the emerging threat. Entire sectors are fortified, and new crusades are launched, further straining the Imperium's already overstretched military apparatus. The forces of Chaos, too, feel the effects of the Union. The unpredictability of Chaos incursions, once a reliable disruptor of Xenos factions, begins to lose its edge as the Union adapts to its methods. Necron forces, with their immunity to warp corruption, play a key role in countering demonic invasions, while Tau and Eldari strike teams target warp rifts with surgical precision. Although Chaos remains a potent and ever-present threat, the Union's ability to resist its incursions disrupts the delicate balance of power in the galaxy. Smaller factions and independent systems, witnessing the unprecedented success of the Xenos coalition, are drawn into its orbit. This creates a cascading effect, as more minor species seek the protection and benefits of membership. While some join willingly, others are absorbed through subtle coercion or displays of force. This expansion increases the Union's strength, but also introduces new challenges, as the inclusion of additional factions with diverse cultures and goals strains the Shaper's ability to maintain unity. Despite these advantages, the Union's rise also triggers new conflicts. Rival factions outside the coalition, such as the Orcs who reject its authority or splintered Tyranid fleets, intensify their attacks in an attempt to undermine the Union's growing influence. Internal dissent also emerges, as some factions begin to question the long-term goals of the Alliance and their place within it. The Kroot Shaper faces mounting pressure to balance the Union's immediate needs with the broader ambitions of its members, a task that becomes increasingly difficult as the coalition grows. On a broader scale, the emergence of the Xenos Union shifts the galaxy's perception of what is possible. The idea that disparate alien species can work together, even temporarily, challenges deeply entrenched narratives of division and animosity. This new reality forces both allies and enemies to adapt, creating a galaxy that is, for the first time in millennia, dynamic in its political and military landscape. While the future of the Xenos Union remains uncertain, its initial impact reshapes the galaxy in profound and lasting ways. One of the most intriguing aspects of a potential Xenos Union lies in the unique technologies, philosophies, and strategies that each faction contributes to this unprecedented alliance. These elements, often the subject of speculation and debate among Warhammer 40k enthusiasts, shape the character and operational approach of the coalition, making it unlike any other power in the galaxy. The blending of such diverse capabilities and perspectives creates a force both unpredictable and adaptable, defying traditional galactic norms. Central to the Union's uniqueness is the integration of technologies that were once thought incompatible. The Necrons, with their mastery over ancient and nearly incomprehensible systems, bring weapons and defenses that are capable of countering warp-based threats, an invaluable asset in a galaxy plagued by the forces of chaos. Their ability to repair and regenerate even the most severe damage is seamlessly combined with the Tau's cutting-edge advancements in ranged weaponry and drone-based automation. Together, these technologies create military assets that can strike with precision, endure prolonged engagements, and adapt to enemy tactics in real time. The inclusion of Aldari warpcraft adds another layer of complexity to the Union's capabilities. The Aldari's innate connection to the warp, combined with their mastery of psychic abilities, allows the Coalition to exploit strategic foresight and mobility. Their webway networks offer a secure means of transportation, bypassing many of the perils associated with warp travel. This synergy between physical and psychic technologies enables the Coalition to outmaneuver foes and strike at critical targets with devastating speed. Among the most discussed aspects in the fan community is the potential for biological innovation brought by the Kroot and other genetically adaptive species. The Kroot's ability to evolve by assimilating traits from their enemies becomes a key component of the Union's strategy. Over time, Kroot forces develop new adaptations that enhance their combat effectiveness against specific adversaries. This dynamic evolution not only strengthens the Coalition's military, but also sparks philosophical debates among its members regarding the ethics of such practices and the long-term consequences of relying on genetic manipulation. The presence of the Orcs introduces a wildcard element that further distinguishes the Xenos Union. Known for their crude yet effective engineering, the Orcs bring an almost chaotic creativity to the Coalition's technological endeavors. Their ability to repurpose scrap materials into functioning war machines, combined with the more refined expertise of other factions, results in hybrid technologies that are both rugged and innovative. The Orcs' unrelenting enthusiasm for conflict also bolsters the Coalition's morale, providing a psychological advantage even in the face of overwhelming odds. Another fascinating aspect is the philosophical foundation of the Coalition. While the Tau's ideology of the greater good serves as an initial framework, the presence of factions with vastly different worldviews leads to a dynamic exchange of ideas. The Aldari's focus on destiny and preservation, the Necrons' cold pragmatism, and the Orcs' unyielding focus on strength create a philosophical melting pot that influences decision-making and strategy. This diversity of thought becomes both a strength and a challenge, as the Coalition must navigate internal disagreements while leveraging the creative solutions that arise from such debates. The tactical doctrines of the Union also set it apart from any single faction. By combining the Aldari's surgical precision, the Tau's emphasis on coordinated firepower, the Necrons' resilience, and the Orcs' overwhelming aggression, the Coalition develops a hybrid warfare style that confounds its enemies. This adaptability allows the Union to tailor its approach to the strengths and weaknesses of its opponents, ensuring that no single strategy can counter its forces consistently. Finally, the question of cultural influence within the Union adds another layer of intrigue. As the Coalition grows and integrates smaller factions, new traditions, languages, and practices emerge, creating a unique Xenos culture distinct from any of its constituent species. This cultural blending not only strengthens the Coalition's identity, but also challenges long-standing assumptions about the inevitability of division among Xenos races. These unique aspects highlight the Union's unprecedented nature and its potential to redefine galactic conflict. For fans of Warhammer 40k, this blending of technologies, philosophies, and tactics fuels endless speculation and discussion, as it represents a rare glimpse of hope and possibility in a universe dominated by war and despair. The Xenos Union, while fraught with challenges, stands as a testament to the power of collaboration in even the darkest of times. The appointment of the Kroot Shaper as the leader of the Xenos Union is met with a range of reactions from the key figures of other factions, each shaped by their distinct personalities, motivations, and perspectives. While some view this decision with cautious optimism, others approach it with skepticism or outright disdain. These individuals, each representing their respective species and philosophies, bring their strengths and weaknesses into the fold, influencing how the Coalition operates under its new leadership. From the Aeldari craft worlds, a prominent Farseer steps forward as a representative voice. Known for their ability to navigate the tides of fate, this Farseer initially views the Shaper's appointment with detachment, skeptical of the Kroot's capability to lead such a diverse and volatile coalition. However, the Farseer's deep understanding of the interconnected web of destiny allows them to recognize the potential of the Shaper's neutrality and adaptability. While they harbor doubts about the Kroot's long-term vision, their priority is the survival of their people and the preservation of the galaxy's fragile balance. This pragmatic approach ensures their cautious cooperation, though they remain a vocal advocate for strategic foresight and measured action. The Tau are represented by an experienced commander of the Fire Caste, a veteran of countless campaigns who has seen firsthand the cost of war. This commander, deeply ingrained with the philosophy of the greater good, initially struggles to accept the leadership of a species they once viewed as subordinates. However, their tactical brilliance and ability to assess the bigger picture lead them to respect the Shaper's skill in navigating complex alliances. They channel their skepticism into action, focusing on ensuring the Coalition's military strategies are cohesive and effective. While they often push for Tau methodologies to take precedence, their willingness to adapt when proven wrong becomes a key asset to the Union. The Necron overlord, representing their ancient and imperious race, views the Shaper's rise with barely concealed disdain. To them, the idea of a lesser organic species leading a coalition that includes the Necrontire is a galling affront. Despite this, their pragmatism and unmatched tactical mind prevent outright rejection of the arrangement. The Overlord takes a calculated approach, testing the Shaper's leadership through subtle manipulation and occasional obstruction. They see the Union as a means to an end, a temporary tool to secure the Necrons' interests. Their contributions to the Coalition's military and technological strategies are invaluable, but their aloof demeanor and cold ambition create a constant undercurrent of tension. Among the Orcs, the war boss who represents their interests is a towering figure of brute strength and relentless confidence. Initially dismissive of the Shaper's leadership, the war boss is swayed by the Kroot's cunning ability to turn conflict into opportunity. While the war boss cares little for strategy or diplomacy, they come to admire the Shaper's knack for uniting disparate forces. This grudging respect manifests in a willingness to channel Orc walks in directions that benefit the Coalition, though the war boss's unpredictable nature and thirst for battle remain a constant challenge for the Shaper to manage. Smaller factions also bring unique figures to the table. A Vespid strain leader, known for their hive-minded coordination and loyalty, becomes a steadfast ally to the Shaper, appreciating the Kroot's pragmatic and inclusive approach. This strain leader's unwavering commitment to the Union's cause contrasts sharply with the more self-serving motivations of other representatives, providing a stabilizing influence within the Coalition. Their ability to foster unity and discipline among their faction becomes a critical support for the Shaper's leadership. A lesser-known yet pivotal individual is an Aeldari Harlequin Shadowseer, who acts as a cultural and spiritual bridge within the Coalition. The Shadowseer's enigmatic nature and deep understanding of the warp and the galaxy's hidden truths make them a key advisor to the Shaper. While their loyalty to the Aeldari remains paramount, they recognize the Union's potential to counteract the forces of chaos and preserve reality itself. Their cryptic guidance often challenges the Shaper's decisions, but also offers insights that no other faction can provide. The Kroot Shapers' leadership is tested constantly by these personalities. Their ability to navigate the conflicting motivations, ambitions, and egos of these key figures becomes the cornerstone of the Union's functionality. Each representative brings invaluable strengths to the coalition, but their differing priorities and inherent mistrust make consensus difficult to achieve. The Shapers' success lies in their capacity to balance these forces, leveraging each individual's talents while mitigating the risks posed by their flaws. This intricate interplay of personalities shapes the Xenos Union into a dynamic and evolving entity, where every decision reflects the diverse perspectives and ambitions of its members. While the challenges are immense, the collective strengths of these individuals under the Shapers' guidance give the coalition a fighting chance in a galaxy defined by conflict and chaos. The formation of a Xenos Union, led by a Kroot Shaper, leaves a trail of unanswered questions and theories that continue to fuel debate within the galaxy and among Warhammer 40k fans. These unresolved issues delve into the deeper implications of such a coalition, exploring its viability, hidden motives, and the long-term effects on the galaxy's fragile equilibrium. One of the most persistent questions revolves around the true longevity of the Union. Many speculate whether the coalition, built on a foundation of mutual necessity rather than shared ideology, can withstand the inevitable resurgence of internal rivalries. While the Kroot Shapers' neutrality and adaptability have temporarily bridged the gaps between factions, theorists argue that the coalition's survival depends on resolving the deep-seated philosophical and cultural differences that divide its members. Will the Tau's greater good ultimately clash with the Necrons' pragmatic pursuit of dominance? Can the Orcs' anarchic nature be restrained indefinitely? These uncertainties cast doubt on whether the Union represents a permanent shift in galactic politics or merely a fleeting response to existential threats. Another key point of debate focuses on the potential for hidden agendas within the coalition. The Necrons, for instance, are often suspected of using the Union as a tool to further their own ancient goals. Some theorists suggest that certain Necron dynasties may see the coalition as an opportunity to manipulate other factions into weakening their enemies, paving the way for a resurgence of Necron dominance. Similarly, the Aeldari, with their history of using alliances to serve their own ends, are seen by some as leveraging the Union to preserve their dwindling numbers and secure access to critical resources. The question of leadership succession is another source of contention. While the Kroot Shapers' appointment has been widely accepted as a compromise, there is no clear plan for what happens if their leadership falters or if they are lost in battle. Some theorists propose that the Union's lack of a formalized structure for leadership succession could lead to chaos and fragmentation, undoing the fragile unity that has been achieved. Others argue that the Shapers' leadership is intentionally temporary, a stepping stone to a more permanent system of governance that has yet to be revealed. The role of minor factions within the coalition also sparks significant debate. While larger factions like the Tau, Aeldari, and Necrons dominate the Union's narrative, smaller groups such as the Vespid, Kroot, and Fraal bring unique capabilities and perspectives that are often overlooked. Some believe that these minor factions could act as mediators, balancing the more dominant powers and ensuring that the Union remains inclusive. Others fear that their contributions may be marginalized over time, leading to discontent and potential splintering of the coalition. The impact of the Union on external threats also raises important questions. The Imperium of Man, for instance, faces a united Xenos force for the first time in its history, which could drastically alter its strategic priorities. Some theorists speculate that this might push the Imperium toward radical reforms or even force them to consider temporary alliances with certain Xenos factions to counter the Union's growing power. Similarly, the forces of chaos, which thrive on disunity and mistrust, may adapt their tactics to exploit the coalition's vulnerabilities, introducing new, unforeseen challenges. The most speculative theories touch on the warp and its relationship with the Union. The inclusion of factions like the Aeldari, with their deep connection to the warp, and the Necrons, with their aversion to it, creates an intriguing dichotomy. Some believe that the Union could inadvertently destabilize the warp itself, either through the clash of opposing energies or by drawing the attention of entities within the immaterium. Others suggest that the Union might unlock new ways of manipulating the warp, creating tools or weapons that could redefine galactic warfare. Finally, there are philosophical questions surrounding the Union's very existence. Does the Coalition represent a break from the galaxy's grim cycle of endless war, or is it merely another iteration of it under a different guise? Some see the Union as a glimmer of hope, proof that even in the darkness of the 41st millennium, collaboration is possible. Others argue that the Coalition's formation is simply a new means of consolidating power, destined to perpetuate the same cycles of conflict and destruction. These unresolved questions and speculative theories keep the topic of a Xenos Union vibrant and contentious, inviting endless debate and exploration. While the Union's formation marks a pivotal moment in the galaxy's history, its ultimate legacy remains uncertain, leaving fans and scholars alike to ponder its potential outcomes and implications. The establishment of a Xenos Union under the leadership of the Kroot Shaper creates ripple effects that are likely to shape the galaxy for centuries to come, introducing profound and far-reaching changes. While the immediate impacts have already been felt in terms of military coordination and political shifts, the long-term consequences reveal both the potential for transformation and the fragility of such an unprecedented coalition. One of the most significant long-term changes is the potential for a new balance of power in the galaxy. The Union's continued existence challenges the dominance of the Imperium of Man, forcing it to allocate more resources to counter the coalition. This shift weakens the Imperium's ability to suppress internal rebellions, fend off chaos incursions, and maintain its sprawling empire. Over time, the Union's pressure could destabilize the Imperium, leading to fractures or even the rise of splinter factions willing to adopt less xenophobic policies to survive. For the first time in millennia, the galaxy sees the possibility of a multipolar power structure, with the Xenos Union as a central force. However, the longevity of the Kroot Shaper's leadership is far from assured. The inherent diversity of the Union, while its greatest strength, also contains the seeds of its potential undoing. As the coalition stabilizes and the existential threats that initially drove its creation begin to recede, the cracks in its foundation may widen. Factions like the Necrons, with their long-term goals of galactic domination, and the Orcs, driven by their chaotic and warlike nature, may grow restless under the constraints of unity. Internal power struggles could lead to a fracturing of the coalition, either through outright rebellion or a gradual erosion of cohesion. The Kroot Shaper's role is especially precarious due to the Union's lack of a formalized succession plan. While the Shaper's leadership has proven effective, their neutral stance and adaptable diplomacy are qualities unique to their individual character rather than inherent traits of the Kroot as a species. Should the Shaper be lost to war, assassination, or other unforeseen circumstances, the coalition would face a power vacuum that could lead to fierce infighting. This scenario raises the possibility of another faction, such as the Tau or the Aldari, stepping in to claim leadership, potentially reshaping the coalition's identity and priorities in the process. The Union's success also raises philosophical questions about its broader implications for galactic history. Some factions within the coalition might begin to see unity as a viable alternative to the galaxy's endless cycle of conflict, fostering a new era of collaboration and mutual survival. This shift could inspire other Xenos races, or even disillusioned elements within the Imperium, to pursue similar alliances, creating a cascading effect that fundamentally alters the galaxy's power dynamics. However, such optimism is tempered by the reality that any alliance in the 41st millennium is inherently fragile, vulnerable to betrayal, and shaped by the relentless demands of war. The technological and cultural integration fostered by the Union could also have lasting effects. The blending of necron technology, Tau innovation, Eldari mysticism, and Orc ingenuity creates a fusion of capabilities that could advance the Coalition's power in unexpected ways. Over generations, these advancements might lead to the emergence of entirely new forms of warfare, governance, and societal organization, further distinguishing the Coalition from its predecessors. Yet this same integration carries risks, as the rapid sharing of technology and ideas could exacerbate tensions or lead to an arms race within the Coalition itself. The potential for outside influence cannot be ignored. The forces of chaos, long experts in exploiting division and mistrust, would see the Coalition as a prime target for subversion. Similarly, the Imperium might employ covert operations to destabilize the Union, assassinate its leaders, or incite rebellion among its members. These external pressures could either galvanize the Coalition, forcing it to solidify further, or expose its underlying vulnerabilities. As the Coalition evolves, its ultimate legacy will depend on its ability to balance its internal contradictions against the external threats it faces. If the Kroot Shaper can navigate these challenges and establish a sustainable framework for leadership, the Union could endure for centuries, becoming a stabilizing force in an otherwise chaotic galaxy. Alternatively, the Coalition might implode under the weight of its own ambitions, leaving behind only the memory of its brief, shining moment of unity. The future of the Xenos Union remains uncertain, and its story is one of both promise and peril. Whether it becomes a beacon of hope for the galaxy or another cautionary tale of ambition undone will depend on the decisions of its leaders, the resilience of its members, and the ever-changing tides of the 41st millennium.